Okay, this is what's wild in New Hampshire by wildlife biologist Eric Orff. This is Mother's Day, May 11th, 2025. I'm looking back nearly 2 decades, back 19 years to May of 2006. And in my book called What's Wild, I have a story about the day the Suncook River flowed upstream during the Great Mother's Day flood of 2006. So let me just read a little bit here as we look at the Suncook River in the new channel. There was no channel here. This was a sand pit. Actually, when I first moved to town in 1979, the river was over that direction, beyond those trees, and over a hill, well, over there a ways. And there was a hill here. There was a big hill, which Bob Cutter owned, and he turned into a sand pit. And they removed sand for, well, I moved here in 79, so this happened in 2006. So 89, 99, so 20 something years later, the river changed course during the Great Mother's Day flood of 2006, 19 years ago. So for much of the night and well into the day of Tuesday, May 16th, 2006, the Suncook River actually flowed upstream from the Old Mill Dam in the Epsom, all during the highest flood in 100 years on the river. In fact, the river flowed north, opposite from the direction it had flowed since the Ice Age. Indeed, a half-mile section of the Suncook River immediately upstream of the Old Mill Dam drained during the Great Mother's Day flood of 2006. So I'm going to read some more from the book. By nightfall, my rain gauge was full again. So it started raining on Saturday, the 13th. It rained hard. Let's see. By nightfall, this is on Sunday, my rain gauge was full, over 4.5 inches of rain. Or this is Saturday night. Anyways, into Sunday. So the flood actually peaked on Sunday, May 14th, 2006. Monday morning, I woke to a totally different looking river. It was higher than I'd ever seen it. It was filled with debris. The Suncook River churned past my house. I live about a mile downstream of here. And it was awesome to see, but not as awesome, let's just read here, but not as awesome as four locals would witness late morning that Monday. Local farmer Bill Yetton relayed to me the next day, Tuesday, he and three others, Ronnie Colby, Chris Paris, and Peter Demers, watched just as the Suncook River changed course in the matter of minutes by noon on Monday, May 15th. So what happened was this was a huge hill dug out over Fort Sand and dug into a big pit. And the flood, the 100-year flood of 06, had water flowing down along the old railroad track over here, and it filled the pit and eventually broke through the bottom. So the actual breach did not occur upriver, it occurred below here at the bottom of Cutter's Pit because there was not enough material left. And once the pit filled full of water like a bathtub, it burst down there and ate all this out over a period of days and weeks, and it continued. But here is a giant flow here. Where was I going to do? By Bill's description, the event of the century in Epsom was just underway when he arrived what was called the Cutter's Pit at the end of Redora Drive about 11 a.m. on Monday. The Suncook River had overflowed its banks a quarter mile above the access road to the pit, flowing through the wetland and boggy area to the edge of the old railroad bed before converging on the access road and flowing into the pit. The flow was picking up dramatically by the minute, according to Bill, and soon a raging flood water began devouring the bowels of the sand pit, ripping huge trees and house-sized chunks and sand of earth. And actually, it just happened so quickly. Oh, my hand's getting tired holding the phone up. Anyway, so here is Cutter's, what was once a hill, a pit, and the Suncook River has devoured the earth and filled the river from here to the Merrimack. And there's even a bunch of sand. There's a big delta at the outflow of the Suncook River into the Merrimack River of sand from here. Sand from here ended up in the Merrimack River, yeah, from Cutter's Pit. So the great Mother's Day flood of 2006, when the flood stage was at 14 feet, was the highest on record at that point, I think, only to be surpassed the next year in April of 07 by a flood that was 16 feet of high flood water. So it actually, for 2 years in a row, we had 100-year floods or more. So here is the Suncook River, Epsom, New Hampshire, and the results of the great Mother's Day flood of 2006, when the whole river changed course. Bear Island, right over there, the river went down a half-mile each side of that. That is totally dry. That river is dry. So 2.5 miles of the Suncook River disappeared during the 100-year flood of 2006. And this is what we have today. The river is an entirely different course. Here it is. And I thought I would bring this to you on Mother's Day. Actually, by popular demand. Someone said, hey, Eric, could you do a video about the Mother's Day flood? So here it is on Mother's Day 2025, talking about the Mother's Day flood of 2006 that changed the course of the Suncook River as the Cutter's Pit filled with water and burst at the bottom end, and then the river just ate away at the earth until what was turned into the Epsom Grand Canyon. Here it is right here. And that's what's wild today. We got the Suncook River on Mother's Day 2025, 19 years after the great Mother's Day flood of 2006, when the Suncook River flowed upstream during a 100-year flood and dried up 2.5 miles of the Suncook River. And that is definitely wild. This is wildlife biologist Eric Orff. Get outside, be wild, live on the wild side of New Hampshire.